Good day, friends. One of the features of totalitarian regimes is the thorough filtering of negative information. In the USSR, this was especially evident. Soviet newspapers concealed events related to any kind of disasters, even natural ones, let alone man-made catastrophes. As a result, sinister rumors, speculations, and myths spread across the country. Today we will tell you about one such tragedy, the crash into a residential building in Novosibirsk, which was kept secret for 33 years. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. On the morning of September 26, 1976, pilot Vladimir Surkov took off without authorization in an AN-2 aircraft from Novosibirsk Severny Airport. 10 minutes later, he rammed a 5-story apartment building at 43 Stepnaya Street. There were no passengers on board. At first, he circled over the residential area, then descended and struck the building near the stairwell between the 3rd and 4th floors of entrance number 1. This happened at approximately 8:20 a.m. The AN-2 tore a 2-meter hole in the wall, crashed to the ground near the entrance, and burst into flames. Nearly 800 liters of fuel spilled into the stairwell and ignited, causing a severe fire in the building. Restoring the house took about 6 months. The top 3 floors had to be dismantled and rebuilt. It is worth noting that the building was brand new at the time. It had been constructed earlier that same year. It contained 8 entrances and 119 apartments. Firefighters arrived within 5 minutes and began rescuing residents through the windows with ladders. The victims of the incident included the young pilot himself, who was only 23 years old, 2 young women, and 3 children under the age of 5. In addition, 11 people were injured and suffered severe burns. Surkov's intended target was his own family, his wife Tatiana and their 2-year-old son Roman, who lived in that building with her parents on the 3rd floor in apartment 9. None of them happened to be at home that tragic Sunday. It is likely that the pilot had no expectation of surviving. From the beginning, he was intent on certain death. The AN-2 aircraft, which struck the building, was more than 12 meters long, over 5 meters high, and weighed no less than 3.5 tons. It should be noted that until 2001 the authorities did not disclose anything about this tragedy, and even the residents of the house rarely liked to recall that day. Not a single newspaper reported the catastrophe, and for many years the story remained classified. Since 1971, Novosibirsk pilot Vladimir Surkov had suffered from epileptic seizures. Later, he also injured his head after falling out of a bus, but concealed his chronic headaches from doctors, fearing he would lose his job. As mentioned earlier, his family life was falling apart. The young man behaved erratically, frequently lost his temper with his wife Tatiana, and had even attempted suicide. As a result, the couple decided to divorce. Tatiana took their child and moved in with her parents. The day before the incident, Vladimir saw his wife with an acquaintance near her parents' home. Overcome with jealousy, he became furious and struck her. That same night, September 25th, he decided to kill himself, his wife, their child, and her relatives. On the last day before the crash, residents of the building saw Surkov pacing and measuring the distance between the windows and a large tree growing right in front of the building. His plan was to fly the plane directly into his in-laws' apartment, but he had to swerve to avoid the tree, and instead struck the stairwell, an accident that ultimately saved many lives. At the airfield, he boarded someone else's plane with a forged flight permit. A nervous dispatcher eventually asked him where he was flying. To this, Vladimir replied that they could find him at 43 of 1 Stepnaya Street. Then he said goodbye. The pilot also left a note for his mother, promising to take his own life and bring his son and wife with him. The couple had officially filed for divorce on September 20th, and the court hearing was scheduled for September 30th. Interestingly, 22 years before Surkov's attack, another man in Novosibirsk had attempted a similar act of vengeance due to family drama. In that case, a flight mechanic named Polyakov hijacked an IL-12 aircraft after discovering his wife's infidelity. He intended to ram the apartment where he believed she was with her lover. Polyakov made several approaches to the building, but never struck. It was the middle of the night, and the glowing windows disoriented him, preventing him from locating the correct one. Authorities began negotiating with him over the radio, and the jealous mechanic eventually agreed to land the aircraft and surrendered. His punishment was relatively mild. He received just 3 years in prison. In the 1970s, the USSR witnessed yet another similar kamikaze incident. In March 1972, pilot Timofey Shuvkanov, also flying an AN-2, crashed into his own apartment. Fortunately, no one was inside, and only the pilot himself perished. His motives were also linked to personal problems. The AN-2, also known as the Kukuruznik or Anushka, remains one of the most widely used aircraft in the world. This small biplane with fixed landing gear earned a place in the Guinness Book of Records as the only aircraft produced for more than 60 years. The AN-2's maiden flight took place 2 years after the end of the Great Patriotic War, on the last day of summer, August 31, 1947. It was produced in the USSR, China, and Poland, and was exported to a number of countries. Thank you all for watching. If you found this story interesting, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and like the video.